You ever see a man sip his morning coffee like it's his last line of peace and you don't know why? But something about the way his hand trembles just a bit tells you he knows what's coming. That was Reuben Miles out on the edge of a dry stretch near Mason Creek, Illinois, where the wind moves like it's carrying ghosts and the land forgets color but never forgets blood. They thought he was just another old black man living too long and too quiet. They didn't know the house had eyes. 4 of them. 2 behind a screen door, and 2 that never blinked, trained low to the ground, muscle and memory packed in a dog named Scout. It was early. Too early for the heat, but Reuben's coffee was already cold. He stood there, hand wrapped around that chipped mug like it was the only thing holding him to this world. Scout sat at his feet, ears up, tail still, both of them watching something, or maybe just listening for what wasn't there. Because silence in that part of the country never means peace. The floorboard creaked behind him. Habit made him glance, not fear, just instinct. That was the thing about Reuben. He moved like a man who had nothing to prove but everything to lose. That morning something was off. The birds were too quiet. The fence gate he fixed last week was swinging loose again. And the dust. Yeah, it carried something sharp. Inside the barn the horses were still, not scared, watchful. That's when he saw it. A sliver of wood by the back wall had been peeled back like a wound, clean, intentional. Someone had come through. But not for horses, not for tools. They went for the study. Reuben didn't speak, just walked slow, calm, opened the safe behind an old shelf lined with war books and his late wife's physics journals, and found it empty. Not just a theft, a message. The bastards had taken her work, experimental code, drone schematics, things that could kill, or save depending on whose hands held them. And they left a single strip of red cloth caught on the latch military issue, deliberate, mocking. Reuben stared at it, eyes narrowing, but his body didn't tense. It stilled. He whispered more to himself than to Scout. "It's Hull again, isn't it?" The name dropped like a stone in a well. Judson Hull, a man Reuben had buried a lifetime ago in courtrooms, testimony, and dishonor. A man who hated Eliana, Reuben's wife, not just for her mind, but because she proved him wrong. Hull had always wanted to erase her. Now years later he'd come back. And this time he'd made it personal. Reuben didn't call the sheriff, didn't need backup, didn't want headlines. He pulled a battered duffel from under his bed, unzipped it like opening a scar. Inside, a sidearm spare, mags, a weathered map, and a photo of Eliana holding their daughter, smiling through wind-blown curls. He tucked it into his chest pocket just above the heart and said to Scout, "We're not waiting for the law this time. This one's ours." They headed into town, Reuben walking like a man on a tightrope between memory and fire. That's where they saw him. Not Hull, not yet, but his scent. 2 men in a dive bar at the edge of Wicklow Street, one bald scar along his collarbone, the other with tattoos coiling up his neck like snakes looking for a throat. Reuben stepped in, quiet, deliberate. One of them glanced up and smirked. "What's this?" the bald one said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Old man, forget where the bingo hall is." Someone at the corner snorted. A few others chuckled nervous chuckles. Then came the line, sharp, cruel. "I didn't know they let his kind drink here, not since '68. That's when the room went cold. The bartender, young woman, freckles, maybe 25, froze mid-wipe. Her hand started to tremble. She looked at Reuben, then at the 2 men, and for 1 second you saw it. That flicker of right, of maybe I should say something. She opened her mouth just barely, but the bald man turned to her slow. "You got a problem, sweetheart?" Her lips parted, but no sound came. Reuben noticed her hands tight around the rag now. Her mouth closed and she stepped back. Shame filled the air like smoke. Her eyes met Reuben's soft, sorry, and then dropped. She didn't speak. Didn't have to. The silence said enough. Reuben looked back at the man. Didn't blink. Just said calmly, "Thing is, dogs don't forget. And mine's got your scent locked in." Scout growled low and controlled. Not a bark. Not a threat, just a warning. The jukebox sputtered to a stop. Chairs scraped. And the air, it thickened. Reuben turned, tossed a 20 onto the bar without looking. "For the floor," he said dryly, and walked out. Not a word more. But as he passed the last booth near the door, someone else shifted. An older man, local, used to sit in the back and nod along to every racial joke that passed through the room. He looked down now, wouldn't meet Reuben's eyes. But his friend, mid-50s, gray beard, weathered, stood up halfway as if wanting to say something. His lips moved, then stopped. He sat back down slowly. Reuben didn't stop walking. Didn't need to. Outside, the light hit different. Warm, but not comforting. Scout stayed close, ears up. Reuben's jaw was tight now. He whispered almost to himself. Same patterns. Same stink. His mind was drifting back to Camp Rutledge 87. Back when Hull was his commanding officer. Back when Reuben spoke up about a racially biased decision that nearly got 2 men court-martialed for a mistake they didn't make. Back when Hull dragged him into a private hearing and humiliated him in front of a dozen peers, said Reuben lacked discipline, lacked trustworthiness, lacked the culture to follow orders. That same line, "Your kind doesn't belong here," he hadn't heard it in 30 years. But hearing it again today, that's what made him decide. This ends now. The road out to the west compound cut through dry land like an old scar, barely a path, just a memory of one. Reuben drove slow, not because he was afraid, but because he wanted the silence to soak in. Beside him, Scout sat alert in the passenger seat. Every now and then his ears twitched, sensing things Reuben couldn't see but felt in his bones. The truck crested the last ridge, and there it was. A low, rust-colored structure tucked beside a dry creek bed looked abandoned to the untrained eye. But Reuben had worn too many uniforms and buried too many brothers not to spot the difference. Fresh tire tracks, moved dirt, a flash of steel under the brush antenna barely hidden. He cut the engine, let the wind roll over them, then movement. 2 figures near the entrance, tactical vests, headsets, one holding a rifle like it belonged to him more than his own name. Reuben muttered, "He's not hiding anymore." And just like that, he slipped out the truck, moving low, Scout trailing behind with ghost-like precision. Behind the shed, hidden in the shadow of dusk, he saw her, Alicia, his daughter, duct tape around her wrists, bruise blooming across one cheek, but her eyes clear, steady, fire behind them. Reuben didn't gasp, didn't speak. He just felt it. That place in his chest where love and fury meet, the part that stays calm so you can move. Scout growled once low, and that was all it took. They moved. In 30 seconds, the air exploded. Reuben kicked the back door open. Scout lunged at the first man, teeth sinking deep into flesh and bone. The rifle clattered away. Screams. Confusion. Reuben was already inside. Hull turned from the table where the laptop streamed code across screens, Eliana's research, her legacy pouring into enemy hands. Hull froze. And for the first time, he looked old. Not weak, just tired. The kind of tired that grows behind bitterness that's never let go. "You really came alone," he muttered. Reuben stepped forward, gun leveled. Didn't need more. Hull raised his hands slow. "You haven't lost your touch," he said with a bitter little grin. "You lost yours," Reuben replied, voice flat. "The day you went after her." Hull's smirk cracked just a little. "I didn't go after her. I went after what she left behind, what she never should have touched." He stepped back, gesturing toward the screens. She was brilliant, sure, but reckless. That tech wasn't meant to be protected. It was meant to be controlled. "And you think you're the one to control it?" "She ruined me," Hull snapped. "She humiliated me in front of Congress, in front of the brass. I was this close to clearance level 7. Then your goddamn wife opened her mouth." Reuben's voice dropped cold as steel and told the truth. Hull's jaw clenched. For 1 second, just one, there was regret in his eyes. Not guilt, not for what he did, but for losing. "You could have built something," Reuben said. "You had command, respect, a future." Hull scoffed. "I didn't want respect. I wanted control. I wanted power." He took a slow breath, then added, "But now, I just want to watch everything she touched burn." His hand twitched toward the trigger on the laptop, but Scout was faster. The dog slammed into him, knocking Hull backward into the table. Screens crashed to the ground. Sparks. Static. Reuben followed, fist crashing into Hull's jaw with the weight of years. Years of silence. Years of injustice. Years of knowing this day would come. Hull hit the concrete hard, and for a moment he didn't move. Reuben stood over him, chest heaving, hand shaking around the pistol. But he didn't pull the trigger. Alicia stumbled forward, breaking her restraints, Scout circling protectively. She touched Reuben's shoulder gently. "He's not worth it," she whispered. "We already won." But Hull laughed, blood in his teeth. You haven't won anything, he wheezed. That drive already uploaded. Gone. Every name, every file. You can't stop it. Reuben leaned down, voice low. I didn't come here to stop a leak. I came to stop you. He grabbed the laptop, smashed it under his boot, then pulled a small flash drive from his pocket, the real one recovered from Alicia's signal beacon. Hull's face crumbled. Reuben stood up, turned his back, and walked out. No glory, no speech, just dust and dusk and the sound of defeat cracking like dry earth beneath bootsteps. Later, the headlines came first: veteran exposes rogue intelligence officer. Then, the think pieces, when the system turns on its own. Cable news argued over surveillance and legacy, but Reuben didn't care. What mattered was home. Back on the porch days later. Reuben stood with Alicia beside him, Scout at their feet. A light wind curled through the grass. A black SUV pulled up. The sheriff stepped out, Callahan, the only white man in town who'd ever stood up for Reuben during that bitter decade when the lines were deeper than fences. He walked up slowly, eyes kind, shoulders tired. You all right? He asked. Reuben nodded. Callahan looked toward the horizon. People. They're talking. Some are proud. Some are scared. Some just don't know what to feel. Alicia added, Let them feel it. We've felt it all our lives. The sheriff nodded. They will. In time. He handed Reuben a folded letter. From the Department of Defense. A formal apology. A commendation. Too late. But still something. As he drove off, Reuben stood in silence, then turned to Alicia. You think it's over? She didn't answer, just took his hand, held it tight. In the distance, neighbors stood near the fence. Some waved, others stayed still. One older man, the same, who sat silent at the bar, raised his cap, then looked away, shame in his eyes. Not everyone comes back from silence the same way. Some whisper sorry. Some pretend they never saw. Some stay silent. And that, too, is part of the story. What do you think? Who was right, who was wrong? Was justice served? Or was it just another scar covered up? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share this story if you still believe in justice.